What is your guess? I can't go into that store ever again story. My girlfriend fist bumped the clerk when he was actually reaching to grab a paper we had just signed. Anyway, we don't go to that tar kingdom anymore. This is a fond memory. Moved downtown to our university area. Got myself a sweet deal on a cheap, ghetto-as duck studio. The kind that get rented out to poor students next to the area homeless shelter. 2006. Rent is only $300 a month. And I'm not in school. Too busy being punk rock and making just enough for a roof and partying. Paradise. 1 week in, I go to a show. Get completely toast. And stumble back up the hill to either get more ducked up or pass out at home. I decide to stop at the 7-11 directly across from my building. Yeah, no. Snacks. I grab everything my impulses and lack of inhibition tells me to, and I'm about to pay for this garbage and be on my way. Set my things on the counter and politely introduce myself to the cashier. She is ringing up my last couple things. Without any kind of warning or rumbling beforehand. I am in excruciating pain. Right in my gut. A split second flashes by. I clutch and clench my legs together. I gasped bathroom. To her, it was too late 5 seconds ago. I try to take a step and bam. My bowels unleash with not only an ungodly sound from my ass, but a simultaneous yelp as if I were a chihuahua that had just been stomped on. I swear I have never been so suddenly sober without a cop being involved. I have shorts on. I look down and just liquid down the back of my leg into my boots and starting to puddle on the floor. I just ran. No change. No snacks. No words. I lived at that spot for almost 2 years. Never went back. And never even walked across their lot to get anywhere. I would walk the same way around that place to avoid it every day. I feel terrible. Went on a first date with this girl to a new restaurant in town. She proceeded to get sloppy drunk and made a huge scene. From the classic could not control the volume of her voice to insisting on trying to show me and some other gentleman nearby what kind of underwear she had on while loudly insisting that she's a good girl though. The server we had seemed to get that I was not a willing part of this, but I was so mortified there's no way I'd ever go back. Do barbershops count? Decided to get a haircut whilst having a cold. Sneeze and farted at the same time. Never went back. I sat on a Target shelf and the entire row of shelves crashed down onto the ground. When I was a kid, my family went to a pizzeria and before the food came I went to inspect the plumbing. They had those sinks where you press down on the knob and the water would flow, with the knob slowly raising back up before it would turn off after 20 seconds. I used my fists and hit the top of the knob and the thing just popped off and a huge geyser of water was erupting non-stop. Me and another kid were in there. We looked at each other and just bolted from the bathroom. I got back to my seat and just sat there silent. Then my mom went to use the bathroom. And when she came back she told us this story of how there was a pool in the bathroom hallway and the manager and an employee were in the men's room slipping and sliding trying to shut off the water. My whole family was laughing at the story. But I just sat there silent. They asked me what's wrong and I told them it was me that did it. They never fail to mention it every time we drive past a pizzeria Even now 20 years later, I've never stepped foot in one since then. Edit. Since a lot of people are asking, inspecting the plumbing was a joke my family made when I'd go to pee at a restaurant. I'd usually be a glutton about free drink refills, and would always have to get up and pee mid-meal. So my family always joked I was obligated to inspect the plumbing at every establishment. I'm at a coffee shop. Have a glass of coffee in front of me, filled to the top, that it is almost overflowing. I raise my hand to get the waitress attention because I want to order something else. I accidentally whack the lid out of the glass. This sends it flying across the room where it hits the waitress on the thigh and gets coffee ducking everywhere. Felt bad. So I left and never went back. I tripped up over my shoelace and crashed into a shelf and broke it. The manager chased me out of the store. Edit. Cheers for silver my dears. In 1983 at age 17 I went into a pharmacy. I bought something and somehow I was given 50p too much change. I didn't say anything and left. To this day I've still not gone back. I have felt guilty ever since. Not a store, but a public library. We're at the counter. and the librarian is scanning the books we've selected. She was generously sized. My little brother, 4 or 5 at the time, tugs my mom's shirt to whisper something in her ear. He was rather new to the concept of whispering. He put his hand up to shield his lips from the librarian. Despite all this, he says about the librarian at standard speaking volume, "Hey mom, why ever notice how fat that lady is?" Mom tried to play it off by saying something akin to, "He thinks it's okay to say it to others cause he says it to me. But my mom's not fat." It did not work. We used to go there every day when my mom didn't want to have to hire a babysitter to watch us during the summer. She'd bring us to her office and let us walk across the street to the public library to play games on their Windows Vista PCs or just read books. She'd always come to pick us up when she was done with work. She started looking for babysitters soon after. While at the till at the convenience store paying for my lunch, the girl behind the counter asked if I wanted to go for a drink. Being married, I made my apologies hastily, pointing to the ring on my fingers, to which she replied that my lunch was a meal deal and would be cheaper with the drink. I pissed all over the floor of a toy store when I was a toddler. My poor dad was mortified, but the staff were very nice about it. The store's closed now, which really sucks. I don't think I actually remember the name of the place. Edit. Thanks for all the suggestions as to what the store's name might have been. It was actually an independent toy store, not a big chain like Toys R Us, which is still open in Canada. I did some searching on the Wayback Machine last night and found out that the store's name was It's All Fun and Games in Vancouver. If you worked there, sorry for pissing all over your floor. I went to buy groceries almost daily, always in the same store. Most of the time only one checkout lane was open and there was always this really friendly older lady there. She would always make small talk with me and compare me to her son. After a few years of this, I moved a bit farther away, but never told her, so I just didn't show up anymore. Now I won't ever go back there because I feel ashamed I didn't tell her and just abandoned her. I used to go to the same haircut place since I was in kindergarten until I was in my teens. One day I go for a haircut and get this new, fairly attractive woman. As she's starting, I start to sweat. Now sometimes when I was younger my head would get really hot and my head would sweat when I was put on the spot sometimes. Anxiety, I guess. No idea. But it's mostly gone away thankfully. Usually a few drops of sweat will roll down my face when this happens. But not today. It was like someone was standing over me slowly pouring a bottle of water slowly over my head. It just kept going and going. Eventually the girl mentions, "Wow, you must be really hot." I'm already very nervous and blurt out the first thing that pops into my head. "Yeah, it must be because you're pretty. I'm not sure why this is happening. You're pretty but it's not like you're that pretty." So pretty much as soon as the last words are leaving my mouth I start asking myself, why in God's name would you say that? Now I'm even more embarrassed and I have to sit through a haircut feeling like an idiot. A drippy wet idiot. Actual surveillance footage of me as the haircut was finishing. I spent the rest of the haircut praying for it to be done quickly or for a meteor to come through the ceiling and put me out of my misery. The girl handled the rest of the haircut like a goddamn pro. No idea why she didn't just kick me out. She finished. I paid. Gave her a huge tip. And now I drive farther to get my haircut done somewhere else. A friend was getting married and asked me to make her wedding dress. We went to a fabric store to check out our options and get swatches. She asked to use the shop's bathroom. A few minutes later, she walked out quickly and whispered to me, "We need to get the duck out here now." Turns out she had explosive diarrhea and absolutely destroyed the bathroom. Neither of us have been back. I was once shopping for a new dress in a Kohl's. I want to say it was for a wedding or something. I am not a dress person, so I brought my mom with me to help me pick out a dress. I dress well, but I just don't like to wear dresses. And the dresses at the time were not meant for girls with big boobs. Everything seemed to have a structured bust that my boobs would not fit in. And if it fit my boobs it was massive in the waist. There was no good bust to waist ratio on anything that I tried on. And anything that didn't have a structured bust looked like I was wearing a potato sack. I must have tried on 20 dresses. And after about the 10th it just became comical. My mom and I were laughing so hard at how awful every dress looked on me. or how my boobs were about to explode out of them. I finally tried on a ruffled floral one that wasn't structured and had a waist belt. My mom blank stared at me for a second and said, "You look like a waitress at the apple barn," and burst into laughter. I could not catch my breath. When my mom starts laughing really hard, her head turtles into her shoulders and her eyes disappear and she looks ridiculous. When she gets like that, I have to get away from her, or there is a 100% chance that I will pee on myself from also laughing too hard. Even if I look away, I can still hear her and I know what she looks like while laughing. Well, there was nowhere to go. I wound up peeing through my underwear in the corner of the fitting room while begging her to stop laughing. We promptly left and I've never been back. You know how in department stores when they have one of those display bathrooms, they have that piece of plexiglass that goes across the toilet that says something along the lines of "not a real toilet. Don't be an idiot and pee in this"? Those barriers didn't exist in the 80s when I was a young kid. Mom looked up and saw me with my panties off, holding my dress above my waist and sprinting for the toilet. She did not catch me in time. Edit. Thanks so much for my first silver. I'll tell my mom and maybe it will help to ease a bit of the embarrassment and shame this event caused her. When I was much younger, about 9-10, I went to a large PC store with my dad, who wanted to ask a technician about an upgrade. Before we left the house, my dad asked if I needed the toilet first, which I said no to. Predictably, on the way I started feeling like I needed to pee, but knowing that I had only 5 minutes earlier told my dad I didn't need to go, I said nothing. We got stuck in traffic for about 30 minutes and the need was becoming urgent. But I thought to myself, I'm a big boy now. I can handle this. I'll just go behind the store when we get there. Nope. So when we pull up, I pretend to my dad that I'm going to look at the games at the front of the store and he could find me there when he was done. So he walked off to the back of the store where the technician's desk was. I took my chance and snuck out to execute my master plan. Little did I know that the rear car park of the retail center was being used for some sort of event. I don't recall what it was, but I just remember a lot of people standing around talking and singing. So I abandoned my attempt and returned to the store. I was at the point of bouncing on the spot to keep it in. One lapse in concentration and it was game over. I returned to the games section and was walking up and down frantically, pretending to browse when all I was really doing was trying not to piss myself. Clearly I was acting strangely, and this led to the security guard coming over to see if I was okay. Except when he arrived, he turned the corner just as I was coming to the end of the aisle, and we basically ran straight into each other. The brief moment of shock was all it took to break my piss holding zen. It started as a couple of hot drips that just soaked the front of my underwear, but the seal was now broken, and no matter what I did, there was nothing that could stop that tsunami of warm amber that was now streaming down both of my legs. I could do nothing but stand there, and started crying hysterically. Safe to say that when my dad heard this and came running, he decided that he would not be making a purchase that day, and to this day I have never set foot in that store again. TLDR. Pissed myself in the middle of a store in front of the security guard. Dad did not buy a new PC. Edit. My first golden comment is about the time I gave my shoes a golden shower. Damn it. Cheers, nomad of the internet. I got a gym membership for the first time recently. A lot of the machines are pretty self-explanatory, but I've never used a lot of them, so I have no idea what I'm doing. So a few weeks ago I'm trying out the endless stare machine, and in front of me is a guy on a machine working his arms, like making circular pedaling motions. I thought, ha, I could do my arms too. So I take the machine next to his, set the timer for 10 minutes, just circling away. I finish my 10 minutes and look down by the seat to see handles. It was a leg machine. I sat there for 10 minutes in front of the entire gym. God and everybody circling my arms like a lunatic. I mean, I'm still going back because I paid for it, but I'm not going to look anyone in the eye there ever again. Back when I was getting married, I was sick as a dog and my soon-to-be bride insisted we go shopping for the wedding invites. Went into this pretty higher-end shop and really felt ill, and not just at the prices. Asked one of the workers if they had a restroom I could use. Long story short, took a massive smelly diarrhea dump, clogged the toilet, and they had no plunger to fix it with. Even though I only flushed once, the toilet kept running and it started to overflow. Rushed out, closed the door, grabbed my bride by the arm and just said, "We gotta go." Somehow different to other stories posted, but my roommates and I always do grocery shopping at this one Safeway in town. We are international students, by the way. We always buy a lot of stuff cause we pitch in $25 each for groceries, which makes it a $100 budget for the week. There's this lady who oversees the self-checkout, Katie. Katie never fails to give us this suspicious look every Sunday. Sometimes, I even see her following us around. Until that one time. I don't know what triggered her, but she accused us of shoplifting. Just because we have a lot of groceries and we were taking time to check out. She also said that if we look at ourselves on the CCTV, we look like we are not ringing in some items. She started rumbling and was saying racist, derogatory comments towards us. I gave her our receipt and told her to compare everything in our bag before she jumped into conclusions. She said she does not have time for that and she will call the police on us. I asked for her manager, but the manager did nothing. In verbatim, she told us to get out of here. This happened twice. The last time we went there for groceries, one employee asked international students, there's roughly 50 of us from the same country, to leave our bags by the customer service area before we shop. They also specifically requested for us to not use the self-service checkout. I don't know what caused all these, but it was very rude and unwelcoming. They could have given us an explanation. Safe to say, we stopped going there from then on. Edit. Info. I was in a souvenir shop in London, England, with all these knickknacks and whatnot. I bumped a shelf that had a bunch of models of Big Ben, and like 6 or 7 of them fell off the shelf and broke. I offered to pay for them, but the employees blew it off. I guess minimum wage workers don't care enough about their actual company policy. Thankfully, I was grateful, and now I will never return to that particular store. Not a store but a Mexican restaurant. I went to use the bathroom. It was one of those single occupancy rooms with a locking door. Well, the door wasn't locked, and due to what I can only describe as the worst timing ever, I saw none other than my waiter's D. I was kinda shocked, so I looked up and we made eye contact for a second. I just went back to my table and didn't say anything for the rest of the meal. Even as my friends were asking what happened, I eventually told them, and it's now one of my classic stories. But yeah, I can't ever go back. When I was 10, me and my mother were at Kmart school shopping. I was trying on clothes in the changing room when all of a sudden I really had to fart. So I left the room, and while walking I let it rip. What I didn't see, there was employee bent down doing something and that fart hit her right in the face. When I realized, I ran out of the store scared to go back for years. I was with a group of friends in a very quiet store. We were slowly leaving one by one through the double glass doors. One of it was closed and the other stayed opened. I somehow thought the closed door was opened and vice versa, so I walked smack into the middle of the closed glass door. My face was imprinted on it. I guess my face was very oily. My friends and the shopkeeper came rushing to see if I was okay. Then all marveled at my squashed face imprint. I left quickly. Every time I walk past that shop I make sure I am looking down or at the other side in case the staff recognize my face. I was in Walmart and had to readjust, so I kindly just shoved my hands down the front of my pants. While the vet tech from the vet's office I took my dogs to walked by, making eye contact with me. Never saw him again after that. We got a nail cooked into our pizza. Not a fingernail, a construction nail. I was 8, 9, maybe. My dad, being the type of dad that would take my first haul of Halloween candy and dump it into our bin to give to other kids, made me go into our MCDs to trick or treat. I begged him not to because I found it embarrassing to beg for food, but it worked and we got a small fries and a drink. Seeing it work, my dad drove to the next fast food place, which was a Wendy's, and made us do it again. We rolled up and said trick or treat to the cashier, who could not give less of it. He side looked at the next person and said next. The embarrassment I felt that night haunted me for longer than I'd like to admit, and I could not step foot into another Wendy's for a really long time. I wouldn't trick or treat again either until I had kids of my own. Sometime when I was in my mid-20s I was with a group of people who wanted to go, so I said, "What the hell? Let go of that stupid kid, I ordered and was rude to again when I asked if I could have my cup for my drink. I got an eye roll and was told to wait a minute. I kind of lost it in a childhood PTSD moment. I yelled out, "Duck it, I don't need my drink or my food. Throw that away. I am done with all of you." I walked out and again immediately felt embarrassed that I lost my cool like that. So I can never go to a Wendy's ever again. Nothing good can come of it. I got kicked out of a bar because I insulted the bartender for her inability to properly read my very valid ID when I was 21. She said you should get a new ID and I said you should get new glasses. Then she told me to finish my drink and leave. Edit. Also, someone else ordered me the drink. I went into a local beauty products store. Everything is made locally by artisans. It's all very eco-conscious blah blah. I had never been in before, and I was looking for a serum or cream to help minimize eye wrinkles. I found a product one of the salespeople talked up, small 0.75 ounces bottle, then went to the counter to pay. "That'll be $135.50, said the salesperson. "Oh hell no. Haha. No, no thank you. I don't care about my eyes that much." I blurted out before I even knew what I was saying. I turned on a heel and left the shop and never went back. It's been 6 months. Growing up, I had horrible separation anxiety. One time, in a neighboring city, me and my parents stopped at a restaurant to get something to eat. After eating, I got up to go to the bathroom assuming at least one of my parents would wait at the table for me. Unknown to me, my mom went to the bathroom after me and my dad had walked out to pull up the car to pick us up at the door. I came out before my mom did and didn't see them at the table. This led to a massive meltdown. A guy walked into Kroger, grabbed a roll of toilet paper and wiped his ass in the middle of an aisle. Then he went into the store next door and called the pasty white manager a dirty Mexican. Now he can't go in 2 stores. Went to a pizza place to pick up an order, was handed the food and said, "Thank you, sir." The response was, "My name's Tiffany." Had to send my wife in to get the food until Tiffany didn't work there anymore. Found out my stalker worked there. 7-11 down the street from me. Sold me spoiled milk multiple times so I complained. She said it spoiled in the car ride home. 5 minutes away. In the dead of winter. Duck her. Jessop's in the UK had staff who only talked to my male partner although he had no interest or knowledge in photography and I was the one asking questions about the camera lenses on sale. They are no longer in business. I was in a clothing store and on the phone just browsing through clothing without really paying attention. Sometime into my conversation I realized I was in the ladies underwear section flipping through yoga pants or something. Speed walked straight out of there. I used to go to a bagel store near my work pretty often, maybe once a week or so. Family owned shop, with the dad, uncle, mum etc all working there, as well as the owner's daughter during the summer. I was always pretty friendly to everyone, and talked to the whole family as we were both from NY but lived in the south now. Well, one time after getting a sandwich to go and getting back to the office, I saw the daughter, who was maybe only a few years younger than me, had written her number on the to-go container, which was great except I was happily engaged at the time. So later that week I went back, got lunch, and let her know I was flattered but I was in a relationship, and she was very polite and we just kind of moved on. The next week, I went back in again. The daughter wasn't working but when I went to order the whole family started grilling me on why I wouldn't date their daughter, accusing me of making up my fiancée, saying I led her on and broke her heart. Again, we had never had any conversations more intimate than how's school. Oh wow, the weather is hot today. Yeah, I miss NY sometimes too, hahaha. Then they asked how I was going to make it up to her, at which point I kind of slowly started leaving and told them I wasn't sure but I will think of something, and have never returned since. Out at a buddy's property in Indiana when I got to it. No toilet anywhere on his land so I head to the little area down the road. There is a disgusting gas station and a diner there. I go into the diner and the hostess tries to seat me at a table. I explain I just need to use the bathroom but she tells me that's only for paying customers. I look at her on desperation and say stack of pancakes and so I don't hit my pants. Took a dump and left out the back door. Guess I can't go back there as I'm probably known as the pancake pooper, the flayojack farter. 4 or so friends and I went into D's Sporting Goods right after we got our licenses. We were browsing around when we got to the gun safes, and my friend got inside of one to see if he could fit. My other friend then shut the safe, and another walked over, not knowing our buddy was in there, and spun the dial. We stood in shock for about 10 seconds, and then realized we had to get staff to help. At this point, 2 of the 5 friends left to avoid getting in trouble. We haven't let them forget that 15 years later, we were 16 and terrified. We got a young kid who said, "I don't know the ducking combination," and started to panic. 2. Meanwhile, our friend is pounding on the safe telling us to get him out. Another friend had went to find staff and got an older gentleman from another department, who calmly looked at the top of the safe and the sticker on top with the combination. The older guy stood relieved he was able to get him out. The younger kid shouted for us to never come back to the store as we left. Store clerk very nicely asked me if she could help me find something. My awkward self just went nope, turned 180 and left. Haven't been back since. My partner and I were out for dinner. Suddenly she looked at me and said she had to go to the bathroom. She jumped up and at that moment projectile vomited all over the table. Running to the bathroom, she carried on vomiting all over the floor. After about 10 minutes I get a text from my partner to come to the bathroom. I knocked on the door, was a single bathroom, and she opened it and politely informed me she had defecated herself from the force of throwing up. Oh my. After she'd done what she could to clean up the bathroom, we had to walk through a party of employees mopping her vomit up whilst my jacket around her waist. I paid the bill and swiftly left. We got in the car and never looked back. I quite liked that restaurant, and now we can never step foot in it again. Grocery store was packed for a holiday weekend. I was checking out at the self-checkout since the lines for the actual lanes were 10 people deep. Though there was a big line for the self-checkouts too. But since most everyone only had a few items, it was moving a lot faster. Still, lot of people gathered there. I had a glass bottle of something, I think salsa, and as I'm scanning something else it falls out of the car through the leg holes where little kids can sit. Shatters on the floor. Glass goes everywhere. Salsa goes everywhere. I heard it break but had no idea it had anything to do with me because I was busy scanning. Then I saw the huge mess. The girl working there couldn't have been nicer and quickly got a broom and mop to clean everything up. But by the reactions of the people around me, you would think I'd just pulled my pants down and started swinging my dear church. This woman right next to me made that tongue click of disapproval and was shaking her head at me, and I went, "Yeah lady, cause I did it on purpose," in a soft, calm, sarcastic voice. But the manager, who'd flown into action as soon as this happened, was like, "Sir, there's no need to be hostile," at the top of his lungs. I then noticed that the mess was just as close to the woman as it was to me, and I loudly said, "Well, she should be more careful. Look at this mess," and grabbed my stuff and left. My thought was that the mass of people waiting in line for the self-checkouts might not know who did it, and so hopefully they'd now think it was her, and maybe she would get the scorn that she and others closer had directed at me. But I have no idea if it worked. Maybe they all started laughing at me for such a pathetic comeback. So between that, not wanting to chance seeing that woman again, and probably being flagged as a hostile customer the next time I walk in, I stopped going to that store.